Welcome to the Command Prompt. This is a short course designed to provide learners with a working understanding of the Command Prompt terminal. This is part one of 3 parts. You're going to need the Command Prompt to navigate around the file system, view the contents of directories, create, modify, and delete files and directories. It's a very important tool, the knowledge of which is required for many computer-based disciplines, everything from web development to ethical hacking. So with that, let's get started. You can see here, this is our file system hierarchy. In Windows, the highest level is called the admin user. In Unix-based systems and Linux and Macintosh, it's root. So if you see the word root, that's going to be the same as your admin user for Windows. Now that root is the top level, the highest level of the hierarchy. On my computer, I only have one user account, it's mine, but if this was a computer with multiple users, then you would see different user accounts. There's also file system files. The file system files are separated into directories called bin, dev, var, etc. A little bit outside the scope of this course. It's important to know that they're there. We're not going to focus on them now. We're going to focus on the users directory. So I'm not going to use a particular user's name. I'm going to use a generic username called users. Now in the users directory, and a quick aside, the word directory, that just means folder. When we're talking about a folder on your local machine, on your computer, we're going to refer to that as a directory. So don't be intimidated by the different terminology that we're navigating different directories. Essentially, we're just opening up folders. If the directory or the folder was located online, then we would call it a repository. As you can see, I have the users directory broken up into different folders: desktop, downloads, documents, applications. Furthermore, the desktop has 3 files on it: friends text, colors text, and catpoem.txt. Now, when you're navigating with the command line, you're not using a graphical user interface. So when you want to go back to the users directory, you have to kind of know where you are to navigate around. We would have to go back to the desktop and then go back to users. And then from users, we could go into downloads. And then from downloads, if we had a download, we can go into that. But it's important to visually see that if we are in desktop, we cannot jump across to downloads or jump across into documents. We'd have to go to the users directory before we can go into any of these folders that you see here. So that's an important concept to understand. You're going to be able to see everything. You're just only going to see it. It's text-based. You're only going to see the text. So if you're in desktop and you want to get to a document that's located in your documents directory, there's no way to jump directly there. Okay, we're going to look at how we can navigate there. We can navigate there with 2 commands. We can move to the users directory, and then we can move to the documents directory. We can also shorten that to navigate to the users directory and documents directory in a single command. But essentially what we are doing is first moving ourselves to users and then moving ourselves to documents. We're not actually jumping from desktop to documents. So this is an important graphical representation. It's important to understand the hierarchy of the file system. For you to be able to use the command line effectively, you have to be able to understand this hierarchy. So you want to take a few minutes to see how the hierarchy is structured and make sure that you have a solid understanding of the file system hierarchy before moving on. And let's continue on with exploring the command prompt, the terminal. Here you can see I have a username, bash by 8020. Username is just the name of the person that's using the computer, the current user. I'm using a generic username. Bash is just the syntax. That means we're in a bash shell. It's a terminal, and 80 by 24 is the default size that I have mine set to. I'm using on a Macintosh. I'm using mine on a Macintosh. So if you're using Windows, you're probably going to want to use PowerShell. we're going to be using the bash, which is similar in Mac and Linux. And then, like I said, if you're using Windows, you just want to use the PowerShell. That should be automatically on the computer for you. You just have to open up your command prompt, search for or open up your start menu, search for PowerShell, and you should be able to find it. So let's issue some commands and see what they do. Present working directory, PWD, or print working directory. That's going to give you the working directory that you're in. So you can see users/username. This is just a generic name. Like I said, it could be /Bob or /Susan. We're in the username directory. And remember from our file structure, our users is located in the root directory. If we issue the command, who am I, we're going to get the response back, username. That's the current user on the system. Who am I is going to show you the current user. So you'll notice that everything up until the $sign is the prompt. We're not actually typing that in. What we're typing in are the white text following the prompt. And everything that the computer is issuing is just going to come on the line underneath, and the lines that follow. And I've made that in italics, so you can kind of differentiate between our text that we're typing in and the return text that the computer is giving us. If we type help, we're going to get some information about the shell. This is specific to my machine, so your information might be a little bit different. Let's go over some of the basics. Navigating the directories. We can list the contents of a directory with ls, the ls command. So in my users directory, I'm going to issue ls. It's going to give me desktop, documents, music, VirtualBox, public, projects. These are the folders in my users directory. Just like we saw on the file hierarchy slide, everything is broken up into folders. So this is the text representation of those folders as opposed to the graphical representation. Everything is still there. This is just showing me everything in the text-based form. If I want to move into one of these folders, then I can do that with the cd command. Cd desktop will move me into the desktop folder. I would type cd desktop. It is case sensitive. I would have to type capital DESKTOP / and then hit the enter key, and it would move me into the desktop directory. And as you can see, my command prompt has changed, showing that I'm logged into the computer, and now I'm in the desktop directory. So when I issue the command ls, we're going to get a different response because we're no longer asking for the list of the user directory, we're asking for the list of the desktop. And it's going to list everything that I have on my desktop. So here I have some text files. I have cat jokes text file. I have my kitten JPG, that's a JPEG, a photo of my kitten, match.mp4. The MP4 extension indicates that that's a video. And you can see here Ruby code with the / is indicating that that itself is a folder, another folder on my desktop. And I have, well, another folder, name folder, and then I have homework docx. Docx is the Word extension. So the ls command is going to list everything that's in our current directory. ls takes several different options. The -l option, ls space -l, is going to give you the long list. So it's going to show me everything that's there. I've shortened it for the purpose of this display. I've shortened it to 3 items, but you can see the information that it provides is more than just the item name. It's going to provide the permissions, the owner of the file or folder, the size, the time it was last modified, and then the name. The permissions here are given in this format. It's going to give you a letter that's to start with. The D means directory. The dash means it's a regular file, standard file, or in this case, it's MP4. So we have a directory, a file that's not a directory, and then another directory. And then it gives you the permissions. The permissions are going to be 9 letters. The reason it's 9 letters is Linux-based systems give permissions for 3 different groups, which is something we're going to take a look at on the next slide. At first glance, the permissions look like they could be a little bit confusing to understand if you've never seen it before, but it's not that difficult to understand once you realize you're looking for the initial letter or dash and then subsequent 9 letters explaining what the permissions are in a series of 3 per group, and there's 3 groups, and we're going to see more about that on the next slide. You can also append the A option, which is going to give you all of the information. So you could have the long list, you could have all information, you could do ls-a, ls-l, ls-la. You can combine options together as well. Now we're going to take a moment and explore file and folder permissions in a little bit more detail. They're very important. R stands for read. A user can view the contents of the directory or file. W is write. User can write or change the contents of the file or directory. And then X stands for execute. So we have 3 different options: read, write, or execute. Of course, there's a 4th, which would be a dash. That's no access. Essentially, we have 3 options: read, write, execute. Permissions are granted for 3 sets of people: owner, group, and other. In this example, we have a dash in the front explaining normal file, and we have permissions given as 9 letters. You would ignore the brackets. They're only here for demonstrating purposes. You wouldn't normally see those. As we saw in the last slide, it's just bunched together. But to make it a little bit easier to see visually, this is how you would picture it. 1 set of 3 permissions, RWX, would go to 1 group or 1 set of people. The second set goes to the second group, and the third set goes to the third group. In this case, full permission for the owner, read and write permission for the group, and read-only permission for everyone else. We can change permissions using the command chmod. And this chmod, change mod, I call it change mod. I don't know what other people call it, but when I see it in my head, I think change mod. This syntax is chmod, and then the permissions that you want to set, and then the file or directory that you're setting the permissions on. So ignore the brackets there for the purposes of just showing you what the syntax is. So if I want to change the permissions of a file, I give this command, chmod, the permissions I'm giving it, and then of course I have to specify the file or directory. Now, in terms of permissions, we're going to give those in numeric values. Okay, we're going to use the octal notation, which means each group is going to have a number, and that number is going to represent the permissions for that file or directory. 7 grants read, write, and execute. So for the entire owner group, instead of RWX, a 7 would be the same thing. A 6 grants read and write permissions. And you can see here 5, 4, and 0. So if we have 777, that's going to grant all 3 groups read, write, and execute permissions. If we were using 700, that's going to grant the owner full permission and no permissions to anyone else. Something that's pretty common is 755. And if we look up here, we can see that's going to be for the owner, full permission, and then read and execute for everyone else. We want people to be able to see and run a program, but we don't want them to be able to make changes to it. So you'll see 755 used a lot. Another common setting is 644. The owner has read and write permission. Everyone else has read only permission. Again, change permission, we're going to be using this syntax. Change mod permissions and then the file. An example would be chmod 755, setting the new permissions, and then file.txt, whatever the file happens to be. And then remember, there's no brackets here. I was just using the brackets for demonstration purposes so you can understand how permissions work, how we can change permissions. There's another option besides changing permissions. If you want to change the owner of a directory or file, you can give yourself the owner's permissions. Let's say if the directory is 755 and you're in the group, in the middle group here, you have read and execute permissions, but you want to have write permissions. Instead of changing the permissions, you can also change the ownership so that you own the directory. If you own the directory, then you'll have the 7 read, write, and execute permissions. The change ownership command, chown, can be executed similarly like we executed the change mod. It would be chown the username, the person that we're changing ownership to. In my case, remember, I'm using the default username. This could be chown Bob, chown Sally, whatever. And then the file or directory that we are changing the ownership of. Okay, let's finish with our section of navigating the file system. You can see here I'm issuing the command cd desktop. It's going to give me the prompt showing that I am in fact in the desktop directory. And now I'm issuing the command ls, which is going to give me a listing of what's in that directory. So this is nothing new, we've learned this before. And I'm going to continue to move around. I'm going to change directory into folder. And again, as you would expect, it shows me in the prompt that I am working in the folder, which is in the desktop directory. And if I ls from there, it's going to show me the files that are in the folder. We have file 1, 2, and 3. They're text files. And then we have another folder called box. And I can cd once again into that new folder box. And then as you would expect, it's going to change the command prompt and reflect that I am currently working in the box directory, which is located inside folder, which is located inside desktop. Now if I use the tilde, I can cd tilde, and what's going to happen is it's going to take me all the way back to my home, my user's home directory. Okay, so I was inside a folder, inside my desktop. I'm just going to automatically navigate back to my home directory with the tilde. I had, in the last slide, moved from directory to directory, one command at a time. Here you can see we're going to issue the command cd desktop /folder /box. This is going to take me right to the same place that we were at last time. The difference is instead of issuing 3 commands, you can actually issue this with 1 command. And the same is true for the ls command. We can list the contents by issuing ls, and that's going to give us the contents of the current directory. If we want to know the contents of another directory, we can ls desktop folder box, and that's going to give us the contents of that directory. So we can simplify things, and we can tell the computer what we want to do. We want to see the contents in a directory that's several directories away, or we want to move several directories in or out. Once we know how to communicate with the computer through the command prompt, it makes things a little bit easier because we can shorten the amount of steps that it would take. I'm going to issue the command cd space ... What this means is take me back one directory. Take me back one level. And it's going to take me from box. My new command prompt is going to indicate that I'm in folder. If I cd ... again, it's going to take me back again to desktop. I can make a new directory with the command mkdir, followed by the name of the directory I want to create. So here I'm issuing the command mkdir space shelf. What this is telling the computer is make a directory and call this directory shelf. Right away, it takes me to the exact same command prompt. It doesn't look like anything was done. In Linux and Macintosh, this is a good thing. If it seems like nothing is happening, if you're not getting any errors, then everything's probably working the way it's supposed to. Doing a cd shelf. I've just made the directory shelf. Now I'm going to change directory into that new directory, and it's going to in fact take me to this new directory shelf. So now my command prompt is showing me we're inside the shelf directory. And if I issue the command ls, it's just going to take me right back to the command prompt. There is nothing to show. It's a brand new directory. I just created it. There are no contents. There's no files or folders. And because of that, it just kind of skips over. It doesn't do anything because there is no output. So there's no error. There's nothing to output. So it just gives me another command prompt, and now I can issue another command. Using the ampersand symbol, two of the ampersand symbols, we can combine commands. So using the and sign and, we can combine commands, which can save us a little bit of time. For example, if we're creating a new directory, and then we want to issue a command from that directory, we want to be inside that directory, rather than creating a directory and then moving to it in 2 steps, like on the last slide, we can actually do this in 1 step. mkdir, the name of the folder, or the directory, and then and, ampersand, space, cd, space, the name of the directory we just created. So these are, up until this point, this is 2 separate commands that we've learned. Change directory into the directory name, and make directory named the name. And now all we're doing is combining them with 2 and signs. So let's recap over navigating the file system. What have we learned so far? So we've seen that cd, change directory, ls is to list the contents, pwd is to print working directory. It's going to give you the present working directory. mkdir, make directory, is to create a new directory. And here's a little tip. Tips have a little smiley with them. The command line will autocomplete files and directories by pressing the tab key. For example, I can type cd space capital DOC and then press tab, and it will autocomplete this with documents /. So I don't need to actually type the entire Word documents /. I could just type DOC tab. It's going to autocomplete that for me, and then I could press enter, and it's going to navigate me into the documents directory. This makes typing and issuing commands on the command line much faster. if you have two directories, one is called documents and one is called document. Okay, so you have two directories, one is called documents and the other one you name document. If you type cd capital DOC tab, nothing is going to happen because the computer can't be sure if you want to navigate to document or documents. So you would have to type out the full name. If there's no other option, it will autocomplete with the tab. For example, if you type cd capital D, it's not going to be able to navigate you to a directory because D could be going to desktop, D could be going to documents. If you type DE, DES, and there's no other folder that start with those letters, then it knows the only place that you can navigate to based on the initial input is desktop. So by pressing tab, it will auto-complete that for you. Let's continue our lesson with working with files. I want to note that I've been moving at a relatively slow pace. I want to make sure that complete beginners can follow along and gain a comprehensive understanding so they can build a strong foundation from which to build on when we're exploring some more complicated topics later. So although I've been moving relatively slow to make sure that everything is easy to understand and it really sinks in, I'm going to start picking up the pace a little bit. There's a lot of material to cover, and it's important that we're able to get through everything at a relatively quick pace. Not light speed, but quicker pace. Let's take a look. I'm going to issue a command, touch, and followed by a file name, catjokes.txt. The command we're looking at here is touch. Touch is going to create an empty file. The file name, catjokes.txt. If I issue the ls command, it's going to list the files in the directory. I was in an empty directory. Now I have one file, catjokes.txt. The echo command. Echo is going to display to the standard output, which is the console here, and it's going to display whatever follows. So here I have echo hello. It's going to display hello. If I said echo goodbye, it would print goodbye. Now here we have two new commands that we're looking at. The echo command. Oops. Let me grab a pen. The echo command and the little character here, which is going to redirect. So we're going to echo, my cat is perfect. Redirect that output to catjokes.txt. Catjokes.txt is a file that we created with touch. So I want to make sure that you have a good understanding of what's going on. We created a file using touch. That's just an empty text file. And then I introduced the echo command. And now what I'm going to do is use this echo command. And I'm going to ask it to display, my cat is perfect. But I don't want that displayed to the screen. I want that redirected to the text file, which is going to be in this directory, catjokes.txt. I want to create another file, dogjokes.txt. So I'm going to issue the command touch dogjokes.txt. If I list the contents of the directory, we'll see I have cat jokes and dog jokes. New command, cat. If we cat jokes, it's going to read the contents of the file. Cat is short for concatenate. It's a programming term that you'll learn very early on. It basically means to put things together. We're going to be using this on the command line, which is going to take the text that's inside cat jokes, and it's going to put that on the screen for us as our output. And you'll see it says, my cat is perfect. So I have the file cat jokes, and there is one line in the file, and the line is, my cat is perfect. A hilarious cat joke found in cat jokes text. Let's continue. As a refresher, I've introduced several new commands, and I'm going to have them right here to the right so you can see what each command does. Touch creates a blank file. Cat displays the file contents. Echo displays text to the screen. The right arrow here, the greater than sign, redirects output. And two greater than signs appends output. Now we're going to see the difference between these in this slide. Now remember, I created a file called dog jokes. Now I'm going to cat dog jokes. We're going to see what is inside that file. Nothing. That is exactly what we should expect because touch creates a blank file. If I echo dog joke 1 and redirect that output to dog jokes text, and then I cat dog jokes, you'll see it has dog joke 1. Touch creates a blank file. Echo is some type of output to the standard display, which is the console. But now remember, we're using another command, redirect output, and we're redirecting the output to the file dog jokes text, which is in our directory. And now when we cat, which remember it displays the contents of a file, dog jokes text, we're going to see that it has one line, and that one line is dog joke 1. Here's another command, echo. His name is Dave Meowthews. Append cat jokes text. Now let's see what the contents of cat jokes text is. So there are two lines. My cat is perfect. His name is Dave Meowthews. The contents of the file, cat jokes text, contains two hilarious cat jokes that I've just created for the purpose of this tutorial. Now, I'm going to echo my second dog joke, aptly named dog joke 2, redirecting the output to dog jokes text. And then we're going to cat dog jokes text. You may have been expecting to see two jokes inside dog jokes text, but remember, the redirect command simply redirects the output to the text file. It does not acknowledge the text that is already in dog jokes. So my original dog joke, although this is only a joke placeholder, hypothetically, if I had created a hilarious dog joke, it would now have been overwritten by dog joke 2. In order to have both joke 1 and joke 2, I would have had to have used two greater than signs to append this output to the text. Let's take a look at what we can do with files from the command line. We can copy, move, remove, or edit. We're going to make a directory, animal jokes. We're going to copy catjokes.txt to animal jokes. And you'll see it's a very simple syntax. The command cp, the file that we want to copy, and then the location. We're going to copy dogjokes.txt, and then to the location, the directory that we just created. Now we ls, and we'll see we have 3 items. We have cat jokes, we have dog jokes, we have the directory that we created, animal jokes. So let's navigate inside animal jokes, list the contents, and we'll see that we have both cat jokes and dog jokes. They've both been successfully copied to that directory. So if I move back out of the directory with cd ... I can remove cat jokes text, simple rm followed by the file. If I issue an ls, we'll see that the cat jokes text is gone. I only have dog jokes and then the animal jokes directory. If I rm with the R option, it will remove the animal jokes directory. The R option is recursive, so you can use remove -R, and that will get rid of the entire directory and its contents. Now if I list the contents in the directory, you'll see that I only have dog jokes. Here's a list of tips, tricks, and shortcuts.